Hi everyone, your Frodo-san here. When I've come to picking topics for these near talks, I've mostly just talked about my own work in one capacity or another. Not 100% of the time, I don't think, but I was thinking maybe that's not like super useful information for you guys. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I was trying to think of things I could talk about that might be more less interesting in an "oh, I didn't know that" type of way, and more interesting in an "oh, that'll I could use that" type of way. And so I thought I might talk a little bit about leaving comments on artists' work, specifically comments that you expect the artist will probably read. And for the record, like, this is just my own take and opinions and personal preferences. So, like, don't take this as like gospel. No two artists are really kind of the same. There's some general things that are true for most people, but we're all individuals. So maybe what the way I react to a comment may not be the same way somebody else does. This is just my personal perspective, but maybe it'll be useful or insightful to you guys to kind of understand how I view it. So when it comes to leaving like positive comments, it's really hard to go wrong, as long as you're just saying that you like the picture or what you like about the picture or something like that. Generally, comments with more thought put into them stand out more and are remembered longer. Like comments that just say like one or two words, or just like "it's good," or it's like a thumbs up, won't leave a huge impression on me. And I have like this own problem that I think is limited to me, though I'm sure that other people have it too, but I think it's mostly just my own insecurities. But I have a really bad time where remembering good comments. Like, I'll remember a comment that hurt my feelings for years, but I'll forget a comment that made me happy like the next day. And that's just like just the way my brain works. But I do like to read good comments, and I definitely, if you like something I made, I definitely want you to leave a positive comment. And I'm sure that goes for every artist. I think they all really want to hear positive feedback when you like it. The tricky part comes when it comes to something you don't like or something you have a problem with. And I'll say right off the bat, if you're wanting to offer criticism and you sincerely want it to be constructive, don't be rude. I feel like that probably should go without saying, but just if you're rude or mean-spirited in your criticism, and I think most artists will automatically file you into the trolling category. Like, we won't take your comment seriously or consider it because it'll be obvious that you're just trying to get under our skin. And like, I don't know if people who don't post work of some kind online can relate to this, but when you are putting yourself out there, and especially if you've been doing it for a long time like I have, you develop this sort of, I don't know if I want to say like a thick skin, because I don't think I have a particularly thick skin. I'm pretty easily triggered, I guess. But like I tend to react to negativity pretty poorly sometimes. That's the problem I have. But you do develop this like second skin that it's like a defense mechanism where when you can tell somebody's trying to upset you, you immediately just like lock it off, and it doesn't have any impact of any kind on you because you've just filed it away into like some dark corner where you can ignore it. So if you're rude or confrontational in leaving a critical comment, it's going to probably be ignored unless you're dealing with somebody who's fairly new on the internet or hasn't been posting artwork a lot, in which case you might get a reaction out of them, but it's not going to be like a useful one, and they're just going to get pissed at you. So if you do actually sincerely want to offer criticism, don't be condescending, don't be rude about it. Maybe even soften the blow with compliments if there are things you do like about the picture. Like, if you think that the hands and feet of a character are drawn horribly, but you like the way the face is drawn, open with the face. Say like, I think you did a great job capturing like a good expression here, but like the hands and feet look a little bit off. You might want to practice those a little bit or something like that. Like just off the top of my head, this just something to make it like more palatable to the artist, and they'll be a lot more likely to consider what you're saying. Now, if your objective is just to troll them or to get under their skin, then say whatever you want. I don't fucking care. But like any seasoned or veteran artist or creator of any kind, and whether it's in hentai or art or like YouTube videos or whatever, they're not going to remember what you said 5 minutes later because they just filed it away into that safe. Like they're just going to completely ignore it. So that's kind of like a general, just like this or that. But if we get more into it, there's a lot of patterns I tend to see. One thing that I get a lot, because I tend to release things slowly, like I have my projects, I don't like to rush them. I like to work on them when I feel like working on them, so they take a long time. But one thing I get a lot as a result of that is, hey, when is this updating? When is this comic getting a new page? Hey, have you forgotten about this? And I think the main thing I want to say about this is I want to remind you guys, if you ever have the impulse to say something like that, to, before you make the comment, remind yourself that if it's a popular project, which it almost always is with those sorts of things, I get asked about it daily, almost. Maybe like every other day, but sometimes daily. So just remember that I've been asked it a lot, and I'm probably going to give a stock response. If you say, when is the next page of special training, I'm going to say when I finish it, or when it's done, something like that. Unless I happen to have finished it, in which case I'll give you the date. But like, generally speaking, most of the time I haven't finished it. So you're not going to get a useful, helpful response because I don't have one. But if you are going to ask something like that, I would recommend just keeping in mind that I've already been asked it 100 times, and maybe phrase it a bit more conversationally, I think would make it more palatable. Just like hey, I was thinking about this comic and I was just wondering, how is that coming along? Are you still working on that, or are you working on something else right now? Or when do you think you'll be returning to that if you're not working on it? So, stuff like that. The more the less demanding you make it, I guess is what I want to say. The less it's going to rub me the wrong way, and the more likely you'll be to get an actual response instead of just a stock thing. But generally speaking, I would recommend not asking about that unless you just really need to know. It's not something I can relate to. I've never asked that of a creator that I really like. I've never been like, hey, when's the next page of this comic? Even though I have followed creators who have similar problems to me when it comes to releasing stuff. It's just not it's not an impulse I have. So I don't know how strongly that desire is to check up on it. But speaking purely for myself and no other artists, like I very rarely drop projects. I just tend to put them on the shelf for a little bit so I can focus on a different project. But like Arrow Mugen is like the only comic that I've actually stopped working on, and that's just because that comic had no planned ending to begin with. It was just supposed to be ongoing forever, but then I ended up with 9 other comics, so I decided it wasn't worth it. But like, you know, comics, they'll get done when they get done. And if you're worried that it's not going to get done, you can express that concern. Just keep in mind that you will not be the first person that week to have asked me about it. Or anyone else for that matter. Like, that goes for any artist with any kind of following. That it's probably common if they do have long pauses between updates of projects. Another thing I get a lot is people who are trying to be my friend, I guess. I know that sounds like super egotistical to phrase it like that, but that is what it is. But they don't know how to make a friend, and the thing is, you can't really force becoming a friend with somebody, right? Like, either you become friends with them or you don't. It's better to just act cool and be natural instead of like trying to force a conversation with somebody. Like, again, speaking purely for myself, I have a lot of people try to talk to me day to day. It's not always like a huge endless flood of people. Maybe it's just one or two people a day, but like there's always like somebody every day that tries to talk to me about something, whether it's through an email or in my chat box or on my Discord or in the comments on some other site like Rule 34 or something. So when you just like try to force a conversation but don't actually have anything to say yourself, you're just trying to get me to carry the burden of a conversation I didn't ask for. That's not going to go anywhere. And like, I know that I feel like that sounds really like rude or condescending, but keep in mind, like, this happens a lot. Like, I'm not talking about just like one person who was like trying to get me to talk to them but didn't have anything to talk about. This happens like maybe every other month. Like, it's not a daily thing. It's not nearly as often as people asking about updates, but it is often enough that that I feel the need to talk about it here. So, my recommendation, speaking as somebody who has formed friendships with people that I previously only just was an admirer of their work, but now we're really close friends. The best thing to do is, one, support their work however you can. Like, this sounds really callous, but like, creators are much more likely to listen to you if you offer them some kind of financial support, like on Patreon or whatever. They'll be a lot less likely to blow you off that way. So I would definitely recommend that if you're starting out at the point of like a fan. Like, I know people have this weird thought in their head that like, well, if we're going to be friends, it shouldn't matter if I spend money on them. But the thing is, you aren't friends yet, right? You're just a fan. And you have to kind of elevate that fan relationship first before it can evolve into a friend relationship. I think that's the best way to put it. So if like that's your goal, and again, I don't think it really should be, but I'm not going to try to dissuade you from trying to make friends. It's just when it's weird to me to have becoming friends as like a goal, because that's not how my friendships have ever formed. But definitely you want to be supporting them some way first. And if you can't afford it, then fine. Just accept that that's how it is, and don't try to force a friendship with someone who's probably not going to want to give you the time of day, because you're just one in a sea of many people trying to vie for their attention. So, but first support them some way. And also, usually supporting somebody through Patreon or something also gives you more chances to communicate with them, because there'll probably be some kind of fan interaction that comes with the Patreon rewards. I have people that I don't like throwing around the word friend, but I have people I am on friendly relationships with in my Patreon, purely because we can talk more often on Discord. So that's just something that's happened, and it's happened naturally, and I don't feel like those people were like hunting me down to try and make me their friend because they liked my work. I feel like they liked my work, and we got to talking because they liked my work, and then we became more friendly. So that's just a much more organic path to that, if that is your goal. And again, I don't think it should be planned like that, but people do what they want to do. But just don't try to... This is how it usually goes for me, like what I'm trying to describe with these people who, like, first of all, I don't know them from Adam. I've never heard of them or met them before. They don't support me on Patreon. They just found my work maybe even that day, for all I know. And then they start trying to instigate a conversation without anything to talk about. So it's be like, hey, how are you? I like your work. Hey, I complimented you. Pay attention to me. And like, I feel like that's a lot more common with like Instagram models and like women who like are selling themselves instead of like me, who's just some dude selling stuff I draw. I feel like the models and porn stars tend to deal with that sort of thing a lot more. but it happens to artists too, just not as frequently. Like I think for them, it's almost it is almost like a daily thing for models. But for me, it's like every other month there's somebody like that, and you're not doing yourself any favors, and you're actually kind of hurting your chances when you approach it that way, because when you don't have anything to talk about, you're basically trying to like peer pressure somebody into a conversation, which just kind of breeds resentment and annoyance. So just don't do that. I kind of rambled about that last one a little bit because like it's something I see a lot, not just with my own work, but like in comments on other people's work and through models and stuff that I'm friends with. It's just like a common thing where people think like, just because I like your work, that means you kind of owe me your time, which isn't how anything, like nothing works like that. But for some reason, it's just this kind of like ingrained entitlement people have in their heads. I don't like using the word entitlement, but it kind of is. We just think that they should talk to you just because you like their work, but they shouldn't. And like they're well within their rights to engage you on like the minimum level or to ignore you completely. So yeah, so those are my things. Like that's the most common types of comments that I get. And like for the record, like I love comments and interaction when they're like when they feel genuine and when people are just like sincerely wanting to talk to me about my work, or just tell me that they like my work, or even tell me things they think can be improved in my work, as long as they're doing it in a way that isn't like insulting. So that like if you see something you like online and it's posted by the creator, I 100% recommend leaving a comment saying that you liked it. Like that can never go wrong for you, I don't think. Like it's people like to have their work validated because it's scary to put your work out there. Like I've been doing it for a decade, and even I get nervous posting stuff, especially in a new place where I don't know what kind of people will be seeing it. So I always recommend leaving positive comments or some kind of positive feedback when you do like something. And if you have something substantial to say about it, by all means say whatever you have to say. Just be polite, and remember that like people have their defenses up when they're reading comments on the internet, because the internet by its nature can be so mean and cruel sometimes. People automatically have their defenses up, and I've even had times where somebody left a comment that I think was meant to be nice, but I took it as mean because it was just phrased kind of poorly, or they were like kind of vague with what they were actually trying to say. So but like if you're being genuine and sincere in what you say, I think that's always going to go far. So I've rambled about this enough. I think I don't actually have like a closing point to say, so let's just go ahead and move it on to our mix and match challenge. So if you don't know, or this is, you don't like regularly listen to this, the mix and match challenge is what I call this little game I like to do at the end of these, where I use a randomizer to randomly pair up two characters off of a list I've made of characters that I like or that I think could be used in Hentai, like my own work. And then once I've made that random pairing, then I start just basically spitballing and pitching an idea for how I would approach making a comic with those characters, usually within the Exoverse, which is my crossover universe setting where like just all these different intellectual properties exist at the same time. So I haven't selected the characters yet. I'm going to do that in real time here, editing out pauses, of course. But the first person on our pairing is number 202, who is Tornina Veyron from Overlord. Oh, okay. All right, that's interesting. And then our second character is number 134, who is Chris Thorndike from Sonic X. Okay, alright, so there's a couple of different ways I could go with this. I always figured if I did an Overlord character, I'd have it be some kind of like transported into a video game situation, because the Overlord setting is a video game. Like it's It's one of those isekai anime where somebody gets sucked into a game. So the characters from it, except for the main character, are all video game characters. But at the same time, in this case, given who Chris Thorndike is, I think I'm going to not do that. I might still do that for other ones, but I'm going to go ahead and take Torninha out of her natural setting and just have her exist as a woman employed as a maid in the real world. Okay? Like, she doesn't have anything about her that specifically requires her to be a video game character. So I'm just gonna, since it's, you know, my universe, this Exoverse setting is mine, and I can, like, it's crafted the way I want it to be, I'm just gonna cheat and do that. So that's actually gonna make this maybe too easy. The alternative route would be somehow Chris gets sucked into the Overlord video game, which shouldn't be too hard to do. He already interacts with video game characters in the Sonic crew, although they're not video game characters in Sonic X, but, you know, there's plenty of ways to throw a character into a video game. It's especially in a world where, like, every anime and cartoon exists at the same time, there's a million ways to do it. So that would be the alternate route, is somehow he gets sucked into a video game and ends up with her. I'm gonna go the other route just because I feel like it's less forced. So Torninha is a maid. Chris Thorndike is the son of this, like, billionaire couple. I don't remember what their money's in. I think it's in tech. But the point is, they have a mansion. They have a maid in the anime that I can remember. But maids aren't, like, a big part of it. But in this case, they're going to be. So Torninha is a recently hired maid in the Thorndike mansion. And we can even have it be, like, a point that she's been hired recently. And let's see, what's the best way to go about this? So let's you know what, I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with this. I think it's fun. So Chris has the Sonic characters living in his mansion for part of the series. It's not like, I don't think it's consistent through the whole thing, but at this point they're there, and he doesn't want to expose them to anyone he doesn't have to, and that includes Torninha. So he's got, like, Sonic in them, and he's been hiding them from her while she's cleaning and stuff. But let's say he let's say he has like Sonic in his room, and then Torninha comes in, and Chris, like, quickly, like, shoves Sonic, like, under a blanket, right? And so he's got Sonic there in the blanket, and he's, like, all flustered and embarrassed, and there's a weird shape under his blanket, and she gets the wrong idea, and, like, she gets flustered and leaves, and like, Sonic comes out, and he's like, I think she got, like, the wrong idea. Like, the joke is that she thought he was jerking off, and then she, like, blushed and left, and Chris wants to straighten things out. Like, he wants to try and keep Sonic hidden, but he also doesn't want the new maid thinking that she just caught him masturbating. So he tells Sonic, stay here, I'm gonna go find her. And, like, he leaves the room, and he's, like, looking for her, and then he finds her, like, let's say he finds her masturbating. I use that a lot, but I think it's, like, a natural way to kind of force a sexual tension into a room. So he finds that when she ran off, thinking that she had just seen him jerking off in his room, she's, like, now got that image in her head, and she's maybe a bit of a Shotokan. So she runs off to some corner of the mansion and is, like, just kind of, like, I think she's, like, still fully in her maid outfit and just, like rubbing up against, like, the corner of a table or something, just creating some friction. And Chris sees this and realizes it, and then she notices him seeing her, and she gets flustered again. And I think from there it's pretty easy. You can either have Chris, like, just suddenly become a bit more suave, which sometimes happens in doujins, and just, like, approach her, or you can have her, maybe she instigates it. But anyway, one thing leads to another. They're both, like, mutually embarrassed at this point, because one thinks that they saw the other one masturbating, and the other one did see them masturbating. So they have this kind of mutual embarrassment, and their hearts are racing because it's an awkward, embarrassing situation. And also, like, Terenina is really cute, so of course Chris would be into her. And at the same time, like, for all the hate Chris gets in the Sonic fandom, he's a really cute character too, physically. So, and like I said, she's a Shotokan in this situation, so she's into him. And then you can kind of have like a pretty natural young master maid type relationship where like he gets to kind of like explore this adult woman's body, because due to the nature of the relationship, he has a little bit of power over her, and like she could say no, but she doesn't. So I think that's kind of probably about the way I would go with it. And like, if you threw him into the video game, you could probably do something similar, but I think this way works a lot better. So that's all I've got for this one. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you had fun. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like to hear me talk about in future episodes, feel free to let me know. I'm open to suggestions. I have other topics in mind, but I'm not so overflowing with ideas that I don't want the help. So like, if there's something you want to hear me talk about, I would love to know what's actually interesting to you instead of just guessing. So let me know, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.